The tragic story of Emily and Marie might go down as one of the darkest in the series, and in this video we will cover it all. How they came to be through a misrepresentation of Spencer's research, how they were forced into horrific experiments, and how they both sadly mutated into unrecognizable creatures. So let's begin. Long before Emily and Marie ever opened their eyes inside a glass chamber, Oswald E. Spencer had already begun shaping the path that would lead to their creation. Decades before the fall of Umbrella, Spencer operated on an orphanage that quietly served as more than just a home for abandoned children. Beneath its charitable appearance, it functioned as a research ground. Spencer had become obsessed with the idea of human evolution through viral enhancement. More than just physical mutation, however, he was fixated on control, specifically control over the human mind. His early experiments explored how mutated T-virus strains might influence cognition, behavior, and memory. It all started deep below the orphanage in an underground lab known as ARC, where Spencer would begin his disturbing research that involved controlled cloning of children and viral infusion experiments designed to test whether memory could be biologically transferred. Subjects were created using recombinant DNA, engineered as near-perfect genetic duplicates. The early trials, classified under Series 60, were failures. Even after increasing the volume of Spencer's injected plasma, successful memory transfer did not occur. Instead, subjects would develop severe mental abnormalities, behavioral instability, cognitive distortion, and emotional irregularities. The human mind proved far more fragile than Spencer had anticipated, but he did not abandon the idea. Adjustments were made, viral load was recalibrated, and in the following generation, Series 70, a subject identified as Chloe showed improved signs of stability after careful modification of the blood-borne vector. Monitoring continued and progress was noted, but then, one night in February of 1990, Chloe woke up to a real-life nightmare. As she sat up in the bed, she immediately noticed that every other subject in the room was gone. From somewhere beyond the door, frantic commotion echoed through the halls with shouting and the unmistakable screams of researchers. Disoriented and desperate for answers, Chloe cautiously stepped out of her room to investigate. Moving carefully down the corridor, she peeked into a nearby room and quickly discovered the source of the chaos. The researchers had completely lost control of the other subjects. In a horrifying scene unfolding before her eyes, she witnessed the subjects brutally murdering one of the scientists. Then, as if sensing her presence, the subjects turned and locked their eyes onto Chloe. She understood instantly that she was in danger and had to escape. So she fled back to her room and hid beneath her bed, pressing herself into the shadows as the subjects entered moments later. They began searching methodically, checking each bed one by one. Her hiding place would not protect her for long, but just as they were about to discover her, screams erupted from a nearby room. And now, distracted by the new disturbance, the subjects abandoned their search and rushed toward the sound. Seizing her only chance, Chloe slipped out from under the bed and escaped into the lower levels of the orphanage, narrowly avoiding additional encounters with other subjects in the process. After a tense and deliberate effort, she managed to secure the hatch key, granting her access to the underground laboratory. But below this facility, she uncovered something far more disturbing than the night's violence. The underground lab was lined with numerous coffins, and upon closer inspection, Chloe realized they contained failed experiments, subjects who had perished during Spencer's memory research trials. The scale of the operation was staggering, but before she could fully process what she was seeing, the unthinkable happened. Several of the subjects began to awaken. Coffin lids opened as the revived experiments broke free and turned their attention toward her. Now being chased through the area, Chloe sprinted toward a nearby ladder and managed to escape to safety just as the subjects close in. She continued deeper into the lab, determined to uncover the truth behind the nightmare. There, she learns the horrifying truth about how she was created and experimented on through files and slideshows. As the pieces finally fell into place, a researcher silently approached from behind and injected her with a sedative, where he then examined her and determined that she was exhibiting early signs of T-virus toxicity. With that diagnosis, she was officially deemed a failure, and like the other subjects before her, Chloe was tragically discarded, becoming another casualty to Spencer's disturbing experiments. As Spencer continued his pursuit of memory transfer with the T-virus, he also began working in secret on something radically different, being Elpis, a powerful antiviral compound designed to neutralize progenitor-based infections. It could reverse mutations, stabilize infected tissue, and restore neurological damage. But Spencer knew the world he helped create would never allow something like that to exist peacefully, so he fabricated a lie. Through intermediaries, he spread rumors that Elpis was not a cure, but the ultimate mind control virus, a weapon capable of dominating entire populations. Then he hid Elpis inside Ark and locked it behind a passcode, where if the wrong move was made, Elpis would be destroyed. After Spencer's death, that lie began attracting the wrong kind of attention. The Connections, a shadow organization deeply invested in mind control through their E-type mold-based bioweapons, became very interested in Elpis, as their creations proved inefficient when it came to a large-scale infection. The mold lacked the capacity for rapid, widespread transmission, an obstacle that could only be overcome through a contagious viral agent. To address this limitation, the Connections invested substantial resources into recovering Elpis from Ark. Since ordering the missile strike on Raccoon City, they had continued to believe that Elpis was a mind-controlled virus, capable of solving their scalability problem. Determined to secure it, the organization placed the project under the leadership of Zeno and former Umbrella scientist Victor Gideon. Spencer's incomplete research notes ultimately directed the Connections to Grace Ashcroft, whom they believed to be the key to unlock Elpis. Convinced that Spencer's work on memory manipulation held the final piece to weaponizing the virus, they attempted to replicate his methods. However, misinterpreting the true nature of Spencer's memory research, the Connections pursued a flawed solution. They initiated a series of cloning experiments in an effort to recreate the necessary conditions, producing numerous subjects in the process. Among them were two subjects, Emily and Marie. However, as many clones as they made, each attempt proved unsuccessful. The clones failed to yield the results they sought, rendering them effectively useless in their efforts to control Elpis. At some point, Emily and Marie were transported to the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center, where they were placed in strict isolation under the designation of Subject 170 and Subject 171. The separation from other patients was intentional, designed to preserve the secrecy surrounding the research being conducted on them. Confined behind a sealed glass wall, their interactions were limited to tightly controlled, scheduled sessions with hospital staff. Their time at the care center led to both of them experiencing very tragic outcomes, with Marie being the first to turn. During her time at the facility, Marie was strapped down and subjected to an experimental procedure involving the mutated T-virus strain. It was noted that a small sample of blood was extracted from 115 infected and forcibly injected into Marie. Initially, the results appeared promising. She demonstrated heightened physical resilience and abnormal strength. However, she ultimately failed to meet the intended objective of the experiment, and soon began succumbing to the toxicity of the mutated strain. As a result, she was returned to her glass chamber and scheduled for disposal. But before this could be carried out, Marie used her newly enhanced strength to dig a hole through her containment cell and escape into the basement of the facility. It was there that the virus fully overtook her system. The toxicity triggered a violent and uncontrollable mutation, transforming her into a grotesque and nearly unrecognizable creature. While hidden beneath the facility, Marie's mutation progressed. She developed cannibalistic tendencies and exhibited extreme aggression. But despite her monstrous transformation, fragments of her original personality and memories remained intact due to the mutated T-virus strain. Then, from a recovered note, it's here that we learn about the girl's extreme sensitivity to light. To all employees, the girl is currently occupying the basement. We plan to corner her by taking advantage of the subject's intolerance to light and will place high-intensity ultraviolet lamps throughout the area. Once this is complete, we will begin the operation to eliminate the subject. Prepare your weapons and be on standby. Staff had planned to eliminate her in the basement, but her enhanced strength made any attempt at containment or termination impossible. They never stood a chance. Following this, in October of 2026, the facility was sabotaged under the orders of Dr. Victor Gideon. Patients were secretly infected with a mutated strain of the T-virus, plunging the care center into chaos. During this outbreak, Marie resurfaced within the hospital grounds and began to feast on the infected patients. At one point, she encountered Grace Ashcroft while devouring infected staff members and began relentlessly pursuing her throughout the care center. Grace attempted to escape, but eventually was overpowered and dragged away to be eaten. However, before this could occur, Leon S. Kennedy arrived just in time and fired multiple shots, violently blowing apart her head. At first, the injury appeared fatal, but this would not be the end of Marie. At some point afterward, Marie regenerated from her injuries and resumed her rampage throughout the facility halls. Later, after the other test subject Emily was freed by Grace Ashcroft and the two began attempting to escape, Marie arrived and intercepted them. Although severely mutated and overtaken by violent impulses, Marie retained enough emotional memory to recognize her friend. So instead of killing Emily, she spared her and carried her to an underground prison cell that contained a collection of dolls, a haunting detail that suggested fragments of Marie's fractured psyche and lingering attachment to childhood memories. Determined to save Emily, Grace descended into the underground levels of the facility and began to look for a way to free the girl. Throughout the search, Marie stalked her relentlessly from the shadows. But despite this, Grace managed to survive, unlock Emily's cell, and escape with her. However, because of the alarm, Marie quickly realized what had happened and pursued them to an elevator shaft. As the elevator ascended, Marie leapt onto it, smashing through the top and attempting to grab them. Grace fought her off, buying just enough time for the elevator to reach the upper floor. But then, as her and Emily escaped, Marie made one final desperate grab, seizing Grace's leg in an attempt to pull her back inside. But just at that moment, the elevator cable snapped, and Marie plunged into the darkness below. From there, Marie disappeared for some time, but the ordeal was not yet over. As Grace later searched the underground facility for a way to the surface, Marie returned for one final confrontation, while Grace worked to restore power and open the hatch above. After fending off the creature once more and successfully restoring electricity to the facility, Grace managed to open the hatch, releasing light into the area. And because of Marie's extreme sensitivity to light, this exposure proved fatal. The intense illumination caused her body to dissolve into matter, finally bringing an end to her tragic existence. Emily was the other clone who was transported to the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center and given the designation Subject 171. Like the other experimental subjects, she was held under strict containment. During one procedure, Emily developed severe cataracts and ultimately lost her sight. In order to keep her mentally stimulated during isolation, hospital staff taught her Braille, allowing her to read through touch despite her blindness. Later, on September 3rd of 2026, a new monitoring log began from one of the care center nurses, documenting ongoing observations related to Marie. September 3rd. As per the doctor's orders, from today I will take part in monitoring the progress of Subject 171. She is emotionless and unsettling. This assignment fills me with unease. September 10th. Subject 171 is blind and requires a lot of assistance. I felt sorry for her and tried to offer some comfort by stroking her hair, but as always received no reaction. Such an unnerving child. I just want to go home and shower. September 24th. For some reason, the security manager joined me today. He asked Subject 171 2 or 3 questions about blood, but of course, a child would not know how to respond. What a strange man. Following this, in October of 2026, Dr. Victor Gideon ordered the complete sabotage of the care center, where patients were secretly infected with a mutated strain of the T-virus. Because Emily was sealed behind a secured glass chamber, she was preserved from the initial outbreak and remained physically unaffected. During this chaos, staff member Jeff Gray was brutally mauled by a zombie near Emily's chamber. But due to her blindness, Emily could not comprehend what was happening and simply believed that he had disappeared. Shortly afterward, Emily was discovered by Grace Ashcroft, who managed to free her by using an ID wristband. Thanks to her knowledge of Braille, Emily was able to solve a crucial puzzle necessary for navigating the facility and progressing toward the escape. However, their escape attempt was interrupted when Marie captured Emily and took her to an underground prison cell filled with dolls. Grace later located the cell and rescued Emily, and the two managed to escape the grasp of Marie and resume their attempt to escape the hospital. Upon reaching the courtyard, they encountered a pilot named Harry Reid, who offered to evacuate them via helicopter. Grace temporarily left Emily under Reid's supervision while she would search a nearby cabin, successfully locating the helicopter key, and with that, the three prepared to escape. However, during takeoff, zombies swarmed the aircraft, causing the helicopter to quickly spin out of control and crash. Reid was sadly killed in the impact, and Emily was severely injured. It was there that Grace carried her to a nearby chapel, where Leon emerged and provided temporary protection with a sniper. Once they crossed paths at the chapel, he instructed Grace to head toward the water treatment facility to find a way out. It was there, as Grace searched desperately for an escape route, that Emily had succumbed to blood loss and stopped breathing. In a frantic attempt to save her, Grace performed CPR and successfully revived her. But just moments after being resuscitated, Emily had succumbed to the mutated T-virus toxicity and began mutating uncontrollably. Grace tried to calm her, but it was too late. The virus had too strong of a hold. No longer able to control her actions, Emily had become a threat. But just then, in a heartbreaking moment, Leon arrived and fired multiple shots at the creature, knocking her to the ground. Unbeknownst to Grace, every bullet narrowly avoided Emily's vital organs. Later, after Grace and Leon managed to obtain the antiviral agent known as Elpis, ambulance crews recovered Emily's body, where she was then treated with Elpis, which successfully reversed her mutations. The treatment also restored her eyesight, curing the blindness caused by earlier experimentation. Following her recovery, Emily was taken in by Grace and raised as her adopted daughter, and for the first time in her life, she was no longer a subject, a designation, or an experiment, but a child given genuine care and a second chance. Click this video here to learn about the twisted story of Victor Gideon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.